Hotep. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for Duwag, and thank you for Nimad, and big thank you for Georgetown University for this event and allowing us to discuss our problem. Sudan, the word Sudan itself is a big problem. Sudan is Arabic word for the black people, but politically it means three things. It means land of blacks. Land is still owned by blacks. Land not yet taken from blacks. And by genocide and displacement, they are taking the land of Sudan. Sudan is in trouble with itself. Sudan is only the country fight its own people. The central government, since we get independent from Britain in 1956, Sudan is killing its own people, a central government. Why? Because there is a identity shift happened in Sudan. Sudan is used to be called back in the history, Kush, before Christianity. But until the invasion of Arabs, Sudan used to be known Nubia, Christian kingdom of Nubia. And Sudan, Nubia have its own culture, which is matriarchal culture, centered on women. Women play a central role in the society. That's why Sudan is not a corridor to Africa. Sudan is the heart of Africa. We all know the Western civilization based on two cradles, Greece and Rome. The Asian civilization based on three cradles, Mesopotamia civilization, and China and India. African civilization based on two civilizations, two cradles, Egypt and Nubia. So Sudan is what we used to call yesterday Nubia, Kingdom of Nubia. And Sudan have its own culture, but we deny to practice our own culture and our language. And this is a major problem and the major reason of the genocide. The genocide in Sudan starts as a cultural genocide, denying the Sudanese, the black people, to practice their culture, their language. Until today I'm speaking to you. We Sudanese, the indigenous, we are not allowed to practice our language, our cultures. And any names, look at us. All we are Sudanese, we advance Arabic culture. We wear Arabic name, and we practice Arabic culture. And the Arabized black, they are killing the indigenous blacks, the blacks who don't want to give up their culture. The most dangerous experience for Sudan, for the black people, even in all Africa, Arabizing Sudan. It means removing the heart of Africa. If we see Africa is a huge elephant, Sudan is the heart of that elephant. If you remove the heart, the elephant will die. Sudan civilization, Nubia civilization is the heart of African civilization. It's the heart of black mankind civilization in the Africa and in diaspora. Removing Sudan from Africa, removing Nubia from Africa, and label it as the Sudan, as the land of slaves, it's a problem itself. And this is a major issue. The political Islam, they carve the methods of reality in the concept of Arabia, and they advance it through the vehicle of Islam. So they're using Islam as the vehicle to implement their ideology. This is a problem of Sudan. We have to discuss the true cause of the problem. Sudan, in the Kush era, Kush time, from 250 BC to 100 AD, ruled by 42 women. 42 women ruled Sudan. That time, women in all world was marginalized. Sudan culture, it's an African culture. It's not Asian culture or European culture. Have its own ideas, its own methods. Sudan is, since we ruled by invasion of Arabia to Nubia, and the Turkish invasion and the British invasion, they shift Sudan from Africa toward Arabia. So we are dislocated, culturally dislocated. Even though we are blacks, and Arab call us land of blacks, but culturally we follow Arabia. This is a major problem of Sudan. Sudan is being shifted or displaced from its place as a center of the African civilization. Sudan is in trouble with itself. I see before we approach the free world or the Western world, we have to reposition ourselves in our culture. We have to recenter ourselves in a culture, African culture. We have to carry our names proudly, not our masters' names. Muhammad, Ali, Abdullah, Fatima, Khadija. These are not African names. These are our masters who invade us and impose their culture on us. Names are very important because it's a part of culture. It means a lot in the culture. You can trace the culture by the names of people and names of the places, villages, towns, and the whole country. The dress code, especially for our women, is being targeted for removing Sudan from its culture. Women targeted because women are the container of the culture. Women give the culture to the baby, give the language. That's why they call mother tongue. When a woman targeted in her dress code, dressed like Arabia, in desert of Arabia, and they don't dress like African code dress, that is a troubling. Carrying different other cultures' name, practicing other cultures' dress code, it's a trouble. So we have our own problem. We have our homework we have to do as Sudanese, as the blacks, as the African, to reposition ourselves in a culture totally. Names, dress, culture, history, everything. We are not doing this. And this is a big problem. That's why we gave chance to invading cultures to impose their ideas, their methods, their ideology. So we have to reposition ourselves. We have to feel proud of our history, our culture, our society, our achievement. So we have to do this work by ourselves. We have to reposition ourselves in our culture. And after that, we ask our friends to help us to reach out the free world and to the existing situation in Sudan. I don't see any development will happen unless we get out of this Arabian cage or Arabian jail, Sharia law. Sharia law difference, it makes people two different people, superior people and inferior people. We need a secular state, democratic secular state in Sudan. And the state must have to be neutral, toward all the Sudanese. A state cannot impose a language or religion or culture on the people of Sudan, on the black people. We have to choose what language we have to speak among all Sudanese. We have to choose which names we have to wear. We have to choose our history, our culture. We have to write it ourselves. It's a big displacement. We reach the level of self-hatred. Look, we have plants, trees in our land producing gum. We call it gum Arab. But it grows in the land of blacks, Sudan. Why we don't call it gum Africa? Why? And that's why it is not enough. Education, the high level of education is very important, but that is not enough. The mental liberation, education without mental liberation will not take us nowhere. As you see, today and yesterday, Sudanese intellectual is speaking from point of Arabia. They are off point, off-centered. They don't see themselves blacks. They don't see themselves Arabs. And that is our major problem. And Sudan, for the last, Sudan, Nubia, it's the heart of Africa. It's the cradle of African civilization. Nubia, Sudan is not in Europe, it's not in Asia. So how Asian language impose on black Africans? It doesn't work. We will be in war against each other forever. So the Sudan state have to be neutral, and we should establish democratic, secular state. And thank you.